All right, I'm going to try to go through this pretty quick because I can get kind of long-winded. Um, what we got here is the new folder blade grinding fixture, and I want to cover some of the features of it, some of the benefits, my thought process on it, and just real quick how it works. And then this will not be a grinding demonstration, but there will be a video with a grinding demonstration coming up. So the first thing, I'll just start at the bottom. First thing I want to show, if you can see it, is there's some texture to the way that the bottom is surfaced. And the idea there is that if you're grinding a pre-hardened blade, you got to keep it cool. You're going to dunk this. When your table starts to get wet, if the bottom is really flat, it starts to kind of stick to the table. That water on the table creates a little bit of stiction, and by having this texture in the bottom, you don't have that. You have some relief from that. Another thing at the bottom, this pin is the cross pin that holds the spring, and then this little tapped hole here you'll see on the other side. I'll show that just supports a little stainless base that the adjustment screw works against to prevent galling. Also on the bottom, you can kind of see the hinge setup, so we'll talk about that. So this is a dual hinge system. There's a 3/16 stainless dowel pin in each side that gives it the support, and those dowel pins are captured on the inside, and having a two-piece hinge gives us room to access this set screw, which we'll use to adjust the attitude of the blade when we mount it. The pins can be removed. You remove one of these stainless screws here, and the pins can be pushed out. You may not show, yeah, you can see it. There's a tiny hole here on each side, and you can stick a piece of wire. I use an 1/8 inch, the short end of an 1/8 inch Allen wrench, and you just reach in and slide the pins out once you've removed these capture screws on either side. And that way, if you get grit in there or something, it starts to not pivot as well, you can just take it apart, rinse everything off, blow it off with air, put it back together. Working our way up, let me screw this. Just show in here, you can see the spring that keeps everything tight. And you can see the base, there's a little stainless base there that this screw works against. And that just prevents galling against the aluminum. So that you have long life in this thing. And then on the top, basically you just have this is a 5/16 24 threaded thumb screw. And it gives nice fine adjustment, very adjustable, very precise. On the front face, everything on this thing is made out of stainless or anodized aluminum except for this tension spring. I tested a bunch of different springs. I found high carbon springs they have more power, and they can stretch further without losing their shape than a stainless spring. So this is high carbon. If you get it wet, when you're done grinding, just blow it off with a little air. Everything else on here is made out of stainless steel or anodized aluminum, so corrosion is not going to be a problem. This thing is designed in such a way that your blades are held on with pivot screws, and your pivot barrel and your pivot screws. So in this case, we're going to mount one of my Freelancer drop point blades that has a 3/16 pivot. So I'm going to just push a pivot into this from the back side, and then I'm going to drop the blade onto it, and just like that. Okay, and then I can go ahead, even before I tighten this thing down, and adjust the blade. So this set screw is going to push the spine of the blade up so that I have the angle that I want to grind at, just like that. Okay, and then I can go ahead and put my pivot screw in the other side. Now on this particular blade, the thickness of the blade, 3/8 inch pivot works well. If your blades are thinner, you may need a slightly shorter pivot. You may have to shorten a pivot, which if you're a knife maker, you should probably be capable of shortening a pivot. Of course, if you're a knife maker, you should probably be able to put a pivot screw into a pivot also, which I seem to be having trouble with, doing it backwards. All right. So that's basically the setup. All right. Pivot holds the blade in place. This is a 640 set screw, very fine thread. You can really adjust it, dial this in however you want. The nice thing about this whole setup is once you've got this set, the pivots are exactly the pivot holes are exactly equal on either side. So when you flip this thing over, it's going to register exactly the same way. If you got a batch of blades and they all need to be ground at the same angle, they're all going to go on the same way. So, and then from there, when you're ready to grind, you just dial in your angle. Now, when I'm going to do another video to demonstrate the grinding and show there's no measuring or trigonometry or angle finding for any of this. It really is as simple as just picking up your grind and adjusting your angle to home in on the grind you want. This thing will adjust up to 13 degrees, which is plenty for most blades. What it might not be enough for is if you do a ground swedge on the top of the blade, you flip it over. And in that case, you may have to adjust your table and its relation to your platen or your contact wheel or whatever that may be. If you guys got any questions about this thing, feel free to ask in the comments. And I think that's all I got.